Hey y'all, welcome back to Ray of All Trades. I'm going to be working on this one outside, even though it's about 100 and a couple degrees. Heat index of about 110. A little warm. Anyway, this Bobcat, really nice gentleman that owns it. He had brought it into a shop and they were supposed to do a governor adjustment. The gentleman who was supposed to do it got sick and they weren't able to do it. And whenever somebody asks about a governor adjustment, the very first thing I always imagine, they're getting into some tall grass and it starts bogging down, or trying to climb a hill and it starts bogging down. And this one does, 100% it does do that. But very rarely have I ever seen it be a governor adjustment that actually caused the problem. They don't usually get out of adjustment unless somebody's been in there messing with something. I told them we'll adjust it, but it's very rare that that's the problem. So we'll get to that. I'll bring you in there. I'll show you exactly how to do it. But at the exact same time, he wanted a tune-up, check it over, grease it up, sharpen the blades, that sort of thing. So I've got new filters for it. This is a Generac motor, 2 filters for the air filter, the fuel filter, just generally a nice machine. So I'll talk about the governor adjustment real quick. Anyway, you just go max throttle, full throttle. We're going to loosen up this bolt down here. I just moved it over so this thing's a little bit warm. Loosen up this bolt right here. We're going to turn that screw, I believe on this one is fully clockwise, and then just tighten it back up again. And that's the full governor adjustment, right? As long as nobody's been messing with springs and anything like that. But it's almost never the governor, from what I've seen. It's almost never the governor. So I was just poking around at it, and it runs great. It starts very easy. It does smoke a little bit when it starts. It does lose some power climbing up my hill. And on Generac motors, it's not always easy to make sure you have the exact right model. You can look up the model number, things like that, but all these stickers, are worn off. So I start checking it out, and I noticed that the plug was loose on here. Literally, it just comes right off. So it just comes right off. Then I want to show you. I'm going to zoom in on that. You see the quantity of rust on this thing? Now, I might be able to even pull off this nub to show you, but it's just rusted really bad. You look inside the boot, and it's also all rusted. Just bad shape. So it has a really bad connection for the ignition. So like I said, you just see how it doesn't snap, it doesn't do anything like that. The other side's actually a little bit worse. So here we are on the other side. This side has a little bit better connection. I can feel it almost snap off. Really rusted connection inside there. And then look at that spark plug. You'll see that rust and corrosion and stuff on there. So I honestly believe that even though we're getting spark at idle, you need the hottest spark on acceleration, which is when a governor's kicking in. So when do you need a hot spark? Well, on a perfect 14.7 to 1, not under load, a regular spark is just fine. When you're accelerating and you're dumping a higher volume of air and fuel mixture into the cylinder, it takes a hotter spark to ignite that compressed gas. If you just think about it logically, this is just a lawnmower. It's just a magneto generating a spark, and it has to travel down this high tension lead, go through that rusted connector into the spark plug, go down the spark plug and jump the gap. Well, it's trying to jump a gap that's got a higher compressed ratio of gas and air because it was forced into the cylinder. And so it's going to take a hotter spark to do that, which would lead to sluggish acceleration. You step on your gas pedal in your car, wide open throttle. If you don't have you're in need of a tune-up, it's not going to accelerate like it's supposed to. And then in addition, this side here is also burning some oil, as you can tell. Plug is, the electrode on the plug is pretty square, but it's got oil remnants on there. And that's probably where I'm getting the smoking from. So let's put a set of plugs in it. We're going to obviously change the fuel filter. He also wanted to change out the fuel line. I'll check them. They don't look terrible from the outside. They usually deteriorate from the inside, or they can deteriorate from the inside, not usually. So sunlight can get to them. And oh, I forgot, I already pulled out the air filters. So, and then this is a 2-piece air filter assortment. It's pretty bad off. I mean, you can't see daylight through it. I don't know if y'all can tell, but that's actually pretty dirty as far as air filters go. We're gonna do that, and let's do an oil change as well. And we're gonna change on the magneto coils, which that's conflict of words, right? Anyway, these are magnetos, everybody calls them coils. So on the end of the coil lead, there is that little metal clip and then a rubber boot. And instead of changing out the ignition coils, which I'm hoping that they're okay because they're expensive, we're gonna try to just change the ends on these. Get us a nice new connection, some new plugs in it, new filters, and an oil change. And let's see if that takes care of the running problem. We will also adjust the governor because, like I said, I told them I would, but most likely that's just going to be a check the governor versus adjusting it. A couple of brand new R12YCs, RC12YCs, new Stens fuel filter, new Wicks oil filter, new spark plug boots. I'm not sure we're going to use these or the automotive style. Once I get it apart, I'll know which style it is. And a brand new air filter. So, inner and outer air filter. So let's put this thing in fast forward and start getting everything taken care of. Take a quick break. I mean, the line is really not that bad. He wants to change it, and he did ask me to change. This is where I cut through, so ignore that slight slit in the middle. I'm actually looking to see if anything is coming apart in here, and it's really not that bad. So we'll go ahead and change it because I buy it by the spool, so I can get him a really good deal on changing out that line. So we'll come back to the fuel part. Let's get the oil changed. So on this one, it's the oil sensors on that side. The drain plug's actually on the other side. Just lifted up the front end. I only did it because the tires are flat and I'm on a downwards incline, so I'm just trying to make the motor flat. You guys see it? This is brass plug right down here under all these wires. Make sure my pan's in the right spot. And let her drain. It's right there, right in the center of the screen. It's draining right now. Let's get that battery out of our way so that we can change out those fuel lines. All right, so this has 2 shutoff valves, so we're going to go ahead and shut the fuel off on both sides. Then the fuel line leaves the tank, comes up through here. I'm just going to basically follow the old line, right? That fuel line comes up through over to here, over to this T, which is the tank selector on the front. There's one that goes in that way. Another one here that goes all the way back to the motor, back to my clamp. I hear it wiggling around. And then we have this one that runs through the frame and goes up to that tank up there. So I'm just going to cut them off, measure them, and put them right in the exact same way that they came out. And as long as the spring clamps still feel really good and springy, I just reuse them. And then this one I cut it a little bit short when I took it apart. So we're going to cut it a little bit long. Brand new fuel filter. Fuel filters are directional. The idea is that it'll work both directions, but the idea is that the fuel from the tank comes in on this side, the arrow goes. There's an arrow right there, so that you can see the dirt on this side, and then the clean fuel is on the inside. If it was flipped around, you really couldn't tell when it was dirty. And then the other side goes up here to this fuel pump. So we've got tank to fuel pump. Now we want to change out the hose that comes down here to the breather. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and change it anyway, but there's no fuel that flows through there. It's literally just air. That's what drives your fuel pump. It's all greased up. Before I put the battery back in, let's go ahead and fix the spark plugs, spark plug boots. Okay, I should be able to just hold the wire and pull these boots loose. Almost there. There we go. Yep. And there's our corroded connector. You'll see it better now. I don't have a lot extra. All right, I'll try to keep you in focus. All right, we're going to be cutting the end of that line off. We're going to be using new ends, and we use a press to put them back together. If you notice, it sits in there kind of like that, you know, face up like that. And when this presses down, it's going to take those two ribs and bend it over and push it in there. All right, can I save any of this? Because I kind of need some of it. Go. Okay, so peel the old one off. Now we're carefully going to cut, kind of like you're cutting a piece of coax. We're going to cut the outside area here without cutting the inside. Thought maybe my camera overheated. It was just the battery. And it was hot. Like I said, very carefully cut through this. Trying to expose the wire in the center. And there it is. So see that wire right there? We're going to take that wire and fold it back. So now it's on the outside of the jacket. And this clamp right here, this end, you want this, the backside end, to be over the top of that. So we're going to go on there just like that. This is a lot easier when it's on the bench, by the way. Okay. So once that's started, recheck your fitting. Make sure you're right there at the very end. Should be sitting kind of like that. Hopefully y'all can see that. The wire's on the bottom, clamps sitting somewhat level. And we're just going to tighten it down until it tightens in there. I had to shave off that lip right there. Just keeps sliding out on me. Let's see. So that one side's clamped. Let's see. I might have to do that with the pliers, because it wants to only clamp one side. All right, and then that one clamps down. There we go, that's getting closer. Let's reclamp it now that it's in there. It mostly fits. Y'all, I was struggling with this thing, and then all of a sudden my buddy Scott showed up and said, "Hey dummy, use this piece of metal." And I went, "Ah, you're right."
Did not call you a dummy.
It's okay, I earned it. Oh, there we go. Nice and smooth there. All right. And then we got a brand new connection. All right, some WD-40. Make sure it's facing the right direction. Slide it back in until it hits the bottom, just like that. Perfect. I just gotta do one more side. All right, y'all, let's get this governor adjusted. Like I said, I don't believe it to be the governor, but basically I set wide open throttle. So it's at maximum throttle right now. We're gonna loosen up this nut right here into that screwdriver. We're gonna loosen that nut up. And then there's this one has a flathead adjustment right there. Let me get a better light. Okay. We're gonna loosen the nut that's at the end of this wrench right here, down here at the bottom. And then we're going to adjust this flathead screw. Usually it goes in the same direction as what the throttle is going to go. So see how this throttle pulls up? Basically it's going to go all the way to one direction, and then you're going to lock it back down. Okay. Okay, so I loosen that up. All we're going to do is turn that screw, and it's already all the way clockwise. So you can see I can go counterclockwise. I can go all the way clockwise. So you just turn it all the way clockwise because this is already in position. So we're just turning this to be maximum, which it already was, and then just tighten it back up. And that bolt I was just tightening is called a pinch bolt because there's an opening right here. So this bolt is just squeezing those two together to make it pinch right around this again. And that's your governor adjustment. So if you need a different governor response, which again, unless somebody's taking it apart, usually you don't. But this spring right here, that spring, you can move it to different slots here to give you a different governor response. You want to be very careful about doing that. So pretty much, since I know that this one here was the one that's been in for years, because this doesn't have any marks on it at all. It's never been in these. This is the way it was designed. And I'm not usually going to adjust that. I'm going to, because if you're trying to adjust that, you're compensating for something else. And ideally, you want to find out what you're compensating for, which in my mind, I believe it was ignition on this one. So tune-up, ignition. So I think we're actually set. Unlikely that the carburetor is gummed up. It could be gummed up, but it runs really good at idle and wide open throttle. It just was losing some power. That's pretty much it. All right, turn the gas back on. The fuel selector's already chosen the right tank. I anticipate when I crank it, it's probably going to start right away because there's fuel in the bottom of the bowl. But all of that fuel has to leave that line, go up to that switch that we had, and then all the way through this line, and then up through that filter, and then up to the pump, and into the carburetor. So it's very possible that it's going to start and stall, and I'm going to have to crank it again to get it to start. Let's give it a try. Max throttle, chokes on, let's see what we get. little bit of oil burn off on the muffler. So what I was trying to show you guys as I went down the driveway and turned around, I went wide open throttle, and I was trying to give it a load. Basically, I was giving it full forward, and you heard the motor just bog down for just a split second, and then it caught up. Oh, that's the governor. Basically, the governor was catching up, and as it started to slow down, it moved that arm up and gave it more throttle. So the governor's working just like it's supposed to. It revved up just like it was supposed to. You can tell when I was crawling around at an idle, I could make it go under load trying to go uphill. I think she's right. I have to sharpen the blades and give this thing a try, but I'm pretty sure we've got this one licked. Let me get the blade sharp and then we'll try to cut with this thing. Get the blades good and sharp and get them balanced. Put them back on. I was trying to make it bog down and I couldn't. Anyway, I think we got it fixed. Bobcat Predator Pro with a Generac engine, some maintenance, get this thing back into his hands. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Hope you got something out of the video. I'll catch you on the next one.